Around getting to live. Yeah, there we go. Welcome, Mike. Hey, good morning, Mike. Nice to see you. Right.
Hey, Mike, how you?
Okay. Um, yeah. So, welcome everybody. This is Talking Niagara. We're here on what's the July 8th. There we go. July 8th.
July 8th. Oh
So,
God, I'm getting my geez, the year's going so fast. I'm getting my Christmas card list going here.
I thought you'd done that on January 24th. You got them all from the sales.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
Yeah. Okay, welcome everybody. This is Talking Niagara, and we're here every morning, 7 a.m. It is 8th of July 2026, and got a number of things this morning. Okay, they pitted it, the news has pitted it as the Battle of Port Dover. Not sure I agree with that, but.
well, of course, they're using the old Battle of Port Dover from the War of 1812. Like, so there's not too many significant things about Port Dover except that on any Friday the 13th, all the bikers go there, and that's one thing that happens on the 13th. And what else can I say? That and it's a little fishing village, or originally was.
Yeah.
So what's happening here is call it the Battle of Port Dover, kind of to use that word because there was during that War of 1812 significant battle there. The Americans took for Port Dover and kind of just wiped it out. And so that's always been his historical. The historical part of Port Dover is the War of 1812. There's other parts of the history too, because Port Dover was also used over 100 years earlier by French coureurs de bois to set up camp there for winter one year. Mm-hmm. But aside from that, it was the biggest historical thing was the War of 1812. So the Battle of Port Dover. That's where they're getting that.
Yeah. It's a sleepy backwater city, and basically the residents are saying 10,000 new homes? Nah. Right?
Yeah, but it's not going to be really in Port Dover itself. It's going to be used on lands that were originally, were going to be or sold by the steel mill there, Lake Erie Works. Yeah, I've worked there. For 25 years.
That's not the Netanyahu Works, is it? That's somewhere else. Another one.
No, it is the Netanyahu Steel Works, the Lake Erie Works. They call it the Lake Erie Works. It's in Netanyahu.
Oh, I thought that was still active, and they were talking about. Oh,
no, that's the same thing. It's the same thing. Yeah. The Netanyahu Steel Work or the Lake Erie Works is the same.
Yeah.
Officially, it's called the Lake Erie Works, right?
Yeah.
It was Stelco, the Lake Erie Works. And Hamilton was Hamilton.
One of the big things that concern me about that, they're putting 10,000 new homes in there, which is a large amount, right? And then I thought to myself, well, how the hell do you get out of Port Dover to head to Hamilton, Toronto, or other places? And it's basically take Highway 6 north from Port Dover. And it's about an hour to an hour 15 minutes. It's about 75 to 85 kilometers.
It's not hard to get. Port Dover has historically been.
But it's a small road. It's not a major road like the QEW.
No, it's not a major. It's all secondary highways. Highway 3, Highway 6. Those are all secondary highways. And basically, so. The plan is to take some old steel mill land. Remember, the Lake Erie Works was supposed to be about twice the size that it is. It's a steel mill there. Originally, it was supposed to be about twice the size it is. It doesn't look like it's going to be twice the size of it is any time. And remember also that that whole Nanticoke area was originally a planned city the Ontario government had planned to put 40,000 residents there. What happened instead was people who worked at the power station or the steel mill came from the rural communities in and around, and some from as far away as Hamilton. So they didn't need to put the city there. So the power plant, the steel mill, and the refinery that were there were part of what was supposed to be a planned city. That planned city never happened. But what's happening now is that the Ontario government, in order to get more homes built and everything, has found this area in Nanticoke and wants to build 10,000 homes. Now, to put this, it's not going to happen right away. They're not going to dump 10,000 homes there. It's going to be over the space of a decade or two, a couple of decades actually, put the 10,000 homes there. What the people of Port Dover are worried about is the character of their town will get ruined. It is a very lovely little town, and it's a fishing port, to tell you the truth, because there are still fishing concerns on Lake Erie, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. And at one time during the 50s and that, there was a lot more fishermen out there. There still is. You could see, like, I worked at Nanticoke a lot, so I could see the fishing trawlers out there sometimes. There's not a whole lot of them, but they're still out there. And they bring in catches of perch mainly, I think, and probably some pickerel as well. And Lake Erie pickerel are to die for. Ooh, yum, yum.
Yeah.
Anyway, so so basically there's a battle, and of course it's a NIMBY thing, basically, not my backyard.
Yeah.
That's what I could see. You're going to ruin the place. Now, what I see here, which is a bit of a tragedy, it's all pretty good farmland. They want to put that stuff on. Right now, it belongs to the steel mill, but nevertheless, I think the land in and around there is pretty good farmland, because that's what they're doing with it now. Their local farmers are leasing the land and growing food. You know what? Things we need to eat. Can't they find a different place where there's not good farmland? Imbeciles that to put that's the dumbness. This is an area that doesn't have the services already, the sewers or anything else like that. So all that have to be brought in, and they want to use up good farmland. Jesus. Can't they find areas where it's not good farmland? And this particular land right now is being used by farmers to grow food for us. And let's not do that. Let's not use that for farmland anymore. Let's put houses in some of the nice farmland. Idiots. I don't get it. Where is the planning here?
Yeah.
I have spoken.
We have heard you. Okay, so we've got a number of comments. We have had a number of comments through that entire thing. So one of the things was Empire has built subdivisions in Thorold on Highway 58. Yep, we know that. 10,000 new homes built in an industrial area encroaching on industry, causing the same problems from the past, illness and disease. Yeah, that is a problem. And in a city not made for that at all. All our cities in gridlock. This is poor type of, and that's the thing that got me. That's exactly why I said, hey, that's why I looked it up and asked the question. How far is it? How do you travel from Port Dover to Hamilton? Because essentially, getting to Hamilton from there is essentially your way in and out to and from work, for example, right? For many of those residents, Hamilton and beyond, maybe they're not, maybe not Hamilton to work, but Burlington, Oakville, and Western Toronto.
We mean the people, the supposed residents of this 10,000 new homes, which would be about 40,000 people roughly. So you're saying that they'll be working in places like Hamilton, Burlington, everything like that?
Well, see, it's going to take them an hour plus to get here to the Niagara, to the heart of the Niagara region, whether they're going to St. Catharines or Niagara Falls. That's a long journey, right?
Well, maybe.
I've done that. I've done that journey down to Port Dover. It's
It's an hour and a half.
Yeah, hour and a half, easy. Yeah, exactly. Right.
So anyway, I don't think they're even thinking that far ahead. I think basically what they're doing is the Nanticoke or the Port Colborne or Port Dover and that area. Once that power plant got knocked down, there's not much more resources for the city, taxes, other things. I think that's part of the rationale here is to fill it up with 40,000 residents and broaden the tax base, et cetera, et cetera.
I get it.
But I mean, Port Dover has already been attacked by those people who want fancy homes, who bought up farmland and bought up beachfront property and built fancy homes on it and all that. Whereas for year after year after year, there was just shacks on that land. So the very idea that it's is preferred residential area, I don't know. And what kind of stuff are they going to build? What is Empire going to build anyway? Are they going to build affordable homes? I doubt it.
No, I doubt it. In any case, affordable homes out there is not really going to impact anybody. They don't need affordable homes in a place like Port Dover.
Well, the refinery's down there too, so that's I'm not so sure you want to be that close to a steel mill and a refinery. You're kind of pinched between the two of them there.
Yeah. Well, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, those were the three big things down there. There was the coal plant, the refinery, which is still a going concern, and the steel mill, which still puts out a pretty good product.
Yeah. There's no denying that you'd have to improve the road. 40,000 new residents. You'd have to be improving that Highway 6 North out of Port Dover.
I don't know. I'm not so sure about that. I mean, there's Highway 3, there's Highway 6.
Or maybe you'd be looking at a Hagersville or Caledonia bypass.
I'm not so sure how much they would need. But remember, these road improvements are going to happen anyway, because over the space of 30 years or whatever it was going to take to put these houses in, they're talking over the space of not like a couple of decades, basically. They're talking here. And we've seen how housing starts have really picked up too much anywhere else, have we? Because of the lack of tradesmen and resources, and they're not really building the houses as fast as they would like because the dearth of manpower.
Yeah. Of course, the other thing to note, of course, is there's no public transit from there to places like Hamilton at all.
Yeah. But still, all that could change. But all this is obviously there's some urban planners look at all this stuff. I mean, it's not in the article, of course. What are they going to do about buses? What are they going to do about train lines?
Yeah.
Actually, they got some train lines there that they ripped up, the old TH&B train lines. And if they ever kept those there at the time, that would have been a perfect way of tramming people from Port Dover to Hamilton.
Yeah. They have industrial train lines that head out to that join to the line at Welland, to the CN line, rail lines at Welland. Presumably,
what are you talking about?
There used to be some train lines from Port Dover to Welland Yards.
Are you talking about the old TH&B?
I don't know what it was called. I just know there are lines there.
Well, actually, they tore up a lot of lines. That's what I'm saying. There's a TH&B line that used to service this area, and spur lines went down to around Port Dover in that area there. they tore up those lines, but those railway lines may still be in existence. And if they really do build something like that, it would be perfect to put a little train there, you know, to run them from Hamilton back and forth.
I don't know the Hamilton.
But that's a big reach right now.
Yeah.
And basically, what we're just talking about are those homes going to go up or not? And the people there, of course, are fighting it, and it's a NIMBY thing, basically not my backyard. And my objection to it is this is another housing development that's going to go on prime farmland. So yeah, that's really smart. It's also a place where you're in between a steel mill and a refinery. It's not exactly the nicest place, you know.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So moving on. Former presidents and military leaders disagree with Donald Trump's highly politicized speech during the U.S. 250th anniversary. Obama, Clinton, and Bush used the 4th of July to release messages condemning Trump's rhetoric. They warned that his stances on immigration and foreign policy were actively threatening American democracy and other things.
Well, basically, yes, it is a threat to democracy. Now, we find, as we mentioned yesterday, Trump putting out the fear, reinventing the communist boogeyman of the 1950s.
Exactly.
You know, I was a teenage communist kind of thing. And that godless, evil communist that is rising in the Democratic Party is something he needs to scare people with. But on the other hand, the objection to the right of the Republicans is because they're becoming a more fascistic, authoritarian regime,
well, that's the allegation,
willing to go that way. And these particular presidents and the military here are complaining of just that. Is the authoritarian type of adjustment that the government is going through.
Yeah, and that's basically retired Marine Lieutenant Colonel Richard Westmoreland specifically accused
Westmoreland.
Well, Westmoreland.
Westmoreland? Okay, yeah, okay. That's better, yeah.
Yeah. Specifically accused Trump of fostering authoritarianism that undermines the very country he swore to defend. And I get where he's coming from because he's a chain of command guy.
Yeah, and there are strict rules. The reason that they all swear allegiance to the Constitution, not the president. Absolutely. Right now, the way the U.S. administration is going now, everybody knows you're supposed to swear allegiance in the back room to Donald Trump, basically, rather than and just sort of disregard your allegiance to the Constitution. So they're complaining this way. The previous presidents, all of them, are saying that Trump is unfit for office. He's a numbskull. The things like the war he got himself into, which, of course, I don't know if you know this, but he has said that the memorandum of understanding is over now, and that's not going to happen anymore. But of course, he says a lot of stuff, which means that their only option basically is to escalate. That's what they're implying.
The MOA was done the moment Iran was out of the World Cup. I noticed. Iran. Well, basically, on that.
I don't think that had anything to do with it.
Well, on that last day of qualifications in the Algeria-Austria game, whether Algeria or Austria were through to the next round, and whether Iran was through to the next round depended upon the score in the Algeria-Austria game. When they were drawn, Iran was out. When one team or the other was in the lead, Iran was in or out, dependent upon where they were, and it ended up as a 3-3 draw. So it went 1-0, 1-1, 2-1, 3233.
It's kind of a
inside.
complicated explanation of why the MOU is over.
But again, once Iran was out of the World Cup, they basically just went, yep, well, the MOU's done next day.
Well, in any case, it was the U.S. now that has said that the MOU is over. At least Trump has said. We don't know if he really means that because he says a lot of things. He said the war was finished and over and that they won, I don't know, 30 or 40 times. So somebody's taken, somebody was counting and someone says that Trump has said the war is over and they've won 38 times or something of that kind. And
38 times, yeah.
So, we can't, even Trump believers realize they can never believe anything he says. Of course, the mega cult thinks that's his method of confusing and their enemy. I think he's just because he's confused, period. But anyway, so the MOU is over. But anyway, I don't know. I just thought I'd throw that part in.
Yeah. Well, the plans of what America 250 would look like changed almost as soon as Trump won his second term in office. He issued an executive order for the task force, to change how it operated, change its name even, and place himself as the chair of this 250th anniversary.
Yeah, he's getting gold statues made of himself.
Yeah.
He's putting his face on the on passports. He's putting his face on money, right? He tried to put his name on the Kennedy Arts Center because apparently he's jealous of John Kennedy, the previous president.
Yeah.
Because John Kennedy was a sort of highly thought of president, and how Trump is kind of jealous. He's jealous of Obama and he's jealous of Kennedy, so he had to get his name off of that. Of course, he and all these things. So basically, when they look at Trump, they think this is a out of control egomaniac.
Yeah. Interesting. The Red Menace stuff occurred at Mount Rushmore on the 3rd of July. Right?
That's where it's official. But they had a preamble to that. But that's it. He really.
Oh, yeah, I know. I know. And it was almost what I was going to say. It was almost as if he's stating there, "Hey, I'm the next face to go on this mountain."
Well, yeah, of course he wants it because that's who he is. Like, if he could have, the Colossus of Rhodes, that huge bronze statue that was in the island of Rhodes that straddled the port, an enormously huge statue. That if he could get away with that, he could. Any day now, you're going to see the Statue of Liberty, and it's going to change. They're going to take down Lady Liberty and put up Donald Trump, a gold statue of him. The guy's an egomaniac, right? It just is. And they have problem. It's not just the problem of his authoritarian shift. It's also his egomania that people are a little bit worried about. And, leaders like Infantino from FIFA know that there's a lot to be had by stroking his ego.
Yeah.
He didn't get a Nobel Peace Prize. So what did Infantino do? He sees the gigantic ego of Trump. Well, we're going to make you a Peace Prize and award it to you. Like all of a sudden created FIFA, World Peace Prize is going to Trump. And then a little later on, of course, Trump phones them for, phones them.
I've got a question for you. Do you know what happened with the algae?
With who?
With the algae in the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pond.
Well, they probably cleaned it up. Why?
No, I don't know. There was a big hoo ha about it about 10 or 20 days before the 250th anniversary, that this beautiful green pond had suddenly all gone blue pond had all suddenly gone green.
Well, what they did is they put a big fence around it. The Of course, we know that when he bragged about the coating that was to be put on the bottom of the pool before it was put on the bottom of the pool, he said is extremely resilient, that nobody could damage it. It's almost impervious. You couldn't take a knife and do any damage to it at all. Then when the big fiasco came and the paint was lifting and the pond was full of slime, because that happens.
Yeah.
That happens. Algae grows in ponds that don't circulate well enough. Then all of a sudden, somebody has taken a knife and ripped a long line in the bottom of the liner that could not be damaged by a knife, by the way. That's what he stated prior to that. And any reporter that tries to tell him, well, you said it wasn't, they're pushed right out of the way. Nobody answers them. And so it went from 150 feet to 200 feet to 250 feet to 350 feet is the final line. So somebody got in there unnoticed. Now, how can that happen? And with a knife and cut a big cut, 350 feet long. And then a canoeist, Olympic canoeist, came along to have a look at what everybody was talking about, the green pond with the liner lifting off the bottom that didn't adhere to it. So the canoeist went in and stuck his hand in and pulled a piece of that up. And of course, he's charged now with damaging it. There were others too. I saw videos of a lot of people along the side talking about that and dipping their hand in and breaking off a piece of this floating whatever was on the liner, and see what's that. This is the stuff that they put there. So I imagine all those people are now arrested. Anyway, so the guy is a weirdo and a liar, and I think that's basically, if you wanted to interpret what the three presidents and Westmoreland has said, the guy is a weirdo, megalomaniac. Watch out.
Okay. So there was another view which you put up on a thing yesterday, that was, or the day before yesterday, that was saying Trump was closer to the vision of America's founding fathers than many Canadians think. This was supposedly a quote, or this supposedly came from late Renita Ford, who was Bob Ford's wife. But in fact, actually, it didn't come from her.
Well, I haven't read that for a while, so can we wait for tomorrow for that one?
Yeah, sure, we can do that.
Because it's been a while since I read that one.
Yeah, we can wait till tomorrow for that. Why not? I'll leave it. Okay, so moving on, Netanyahu it faces an urgent need for a military victory because elections are looming.
Yes. So one of the issues that's been going on from the very beginning is Netanyahu cannot be charged as long as he is the president. As we know, Trump derided Zelensky for not holding elections during the war in Ukraine, during the war. And he says, you got to have elections, because what he wanted to do is put his own guy in there and sort of get Ukraine to quit, because he wanted to show the world he could stop the war, but it wasn't that easy. Well, so one of the things he complained about vehemently was the fact that Zelensky wasn't elected. But part of the constitution of Ukraine was you don't have elections during a war.
Yeah.
And the same thing is and of course Trump had to stop saying that because his buddy Netanyahu was in exactly the same situation.
Yeah.
People are demanding an election, but they can't have an election during war by the Constitution of Israel, right? Yeah. So as long as the war keeps going, Netanyahu doesn't have to face the electorate.
Yeah, and there are differences on that in different parts of the world. Because, for example, in 1944, of course, there was a presidential election, and the U.S., all the Senate and the U.S. and Congress, etc., all was re-elected in 1944. In Britain, they went 6 years without an election during the course of that war.
Yeah, and then near the end of the war, Churchill got booted.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, actually, after the end of the war, it was October, I believe, when he got booted.
Oh, I thought it was just for okay. Well, in any case, yeah.
No.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I believe the election was October. The war was over in September, wasn't it?
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Churchill was an old-fashioned imperialist. He was good for the war, but people thought he wasn't so good for modern Britain.
Anyway, well, in fact, there was kind of this revolution in thinking in Britain at that time because of the fact that a lot of people were coming back from the war saying, what we don't need is the continuance of same old, same old. We need social medicine. We need more people educated at school. We need better housing. We need a whole heap of things.
We don't need imperialism.
Yeah, and we don't need imperialism. Yes, exactly.
Okay,
right?
so
that was the thinking of the age, right?
Well, right now, Netanyahu can't face the polls. He doesn't want to. He's up for. He's been trying to. He's been trying to fix the Supreme Court. Basically, he tried that. He wants to dodge his corruption issues and other issues. He also does not want to face the electorate because he failed completely when Hamas attacked Israel. He had told the Israeli people that they were perfectly safe with the measures he took to bottle up the Hamas inside of Gaza. What happened was the Hamas just drove right up to the fence and ripped it down with a front end loader.
Yeah.
What they did was they sent little drones in to attack the towers, the lookout towers. They also ignored warnings that came from Egyptians and others who said that this attack was imminent. And then they had a few people in ultralights fly into Israel. And basically what they did is just big front end loaders ripped the fence down and drove in.
Yeah.
And and when they went to the army barracks, everyone was still sleeping when they attacked. So how could anybody be prepared for this? So what he does not want to do is face the music for that. He doesn't want to face the music for his corruption and his kid's corruption. He's got a kid that's apparently up to his neck in corruption too. So all these things he doesn't want to face. And as long as the war keeps going, he can avoid that.
But
it's in his best interest to keep the war going in Lebanon and keep the war going in Iran. And as long as he can keep those, and of course in Gaza, and as long as he can keep those things going, he can avoid the polls.
Yeah, but again, the tide is turning even in Israel against Netanyahu.
Yes. I mean, this is no good news for the Palestinians because the opposition is just as much anti-everybody as anti-Palestinian as Netanyahu was. I might point out that I saw an interview with I think it was through CNN, but I'm not quite sure. An interview with Netanyahu just a day or two ago. And you got to listen. It's very important to know history because when he was speaking, he was leading in with little lies all the time, little lies here and there. And he talked about, he says, well, everybody thinks we're against Muslims and all that. And he says 20% of Israel is Muslims. That's not true. 20% of Israel is made up of Christian Palestinians and Muslim Palestinians. It's about 10% each. It's about 10% Christian Palestinians and about 10% Muslim Palestinians, right? So that makes up the minority inside of Israel. But it, like he said, it's 20% Muslim. Well, it isn't.
Well, plus,
and he also made up, exaggerated some of the things that happened on October 7th, including the beheading thing. There hasn't been a whole lot. I think the only person I know that might have been beheaded was a Thai worker. He also mentioned infants, all the babies being killed and stuff. There wasn't a whole lot of babies that were killed, and nobody really knows how many of the people were killed by the IDF, and how many people were killed by friendly fire, and how many people were killed by Hamas. So, and the Hannibal Directive is another thing too. At least 14 people were killed by the Hannibal Directive. That means Israel seized the IDF saw people being captured and taken to Gaza. They would blow that car up, not let them be taken as hostage.
Yeah. So that's kind of that fight is, obviously that's ongoing. Okay, so Trump has increased the USA deficit by 28%. Okay. And what about Carney, his MOU, money on us? Okay, on money on US. Okay. So far, secretive, determine which is troublesome. Okay. Canada is broke, says Rick. And I think we've actually got an upcoming article which will disprove that.
Not really disprove it. It just says that we're doing well with our trade deficits.
Yeah. All right.
We've actually the Americans are going to get even more angry because the trade deficit with Canada has gone up actually. But of course, that's mostly due to oil. But anyway,
we'll get there. Okay, one more. We'll get there. Okay. So, anything else on Netanyahu at the moment?
No, but don't. The guy is the cagiest among the cagiest, most manipulative leaders ever. His one weapon of hanging the anti-Semitic tag on anyone is losing power, but he still has incredible power in the United States because 75% of the elected officials owe allegiance to AIPAC and the Israeli lobby.
Yeah.
That's changing though. Now we found that both the right and the left want to shake off any allegiances to the Israeli lobby. We found the right wing. We found recently the left-leaning Democrats who won primaries and stuff like that. One of the biggest things they'll tell you is we're overcoming the old guard. We're getting rid of the old Democrats because they were bought and paid for by AIPAC. That was part of the reason. And you find the right side of the politics doing the same thing. Guys like Tucker Carlson and so on, telling you got to unshackle yourself from AIPAC and not too many of the Republicans, more Republicans than Democrats actually, owe allegiance to the Israel Pact because they get money from them. So we find that Netanyahu may have a limited time that he can maneuver with the support he has now because the Israeli lobby is losing influence. But that'll take time though. And Canada follows the England-US rabbit holes, which are broke. We follow instead of lead. That's right. We follow instead of lead. Exactly right.
Yeah.
We have the natural resources. We have, So Canada is a very lazy, very, very lazy when it comes to its own. It has used the easiest ways ever. That is why we're in the situation now where Donald Trump can threaten us because we have gone we have not planned
I'm
well.
trying, Dave, let's come back to those issues in a minute,
Okay.
right? I'm trying to cover one local thing first before we come to exactly that point. We've got the Carney article coming up in 1 minute, but I just wanted to cover, if I may, the Niagara on the Lake candidates as they sit right now. I'm trying to do this and regularly bring these up to date, right? So we've got 3 candidates for Lord Mayor in Niagara on the Lake. One we know. We got Owen Weens, who's standing for mayor. We got Andrea Kaiser, who's standing for mayor, and we got Vaughan Gottler. It's spelled Goettler. I think it's Gottler, right? Who's standing for mayor. We've also got 4 candidates for city council, which is Weston Miller, Steve McGuinness, Gary Burrows, and Sandra O'Connor. I know Sandra O'Connor is I believe her name's familiar. So, and as is Gary Burrows. So I believe they're pre-existing candidates, members. DSBN School Board, we've got 6 candidates: Mike Brasseau, Jennifer Ajandi, Lauren Bubnik, Kate Baggett, Jonathan Fast, and Matthew Bradman. NDSB and the Catholic School Board, we've got 2 trustee candidates, Laurie Hubers and Natalia Benoit. And for the Consul Solaire Viamonde, CSV, we've got Amanda Leduc. And for the registered third-party advertisers, they've got registered third-party advertisers, NOTLRA, or Niagara on the Lake Residents Association, right? So they're going to be making their information known to everybody. All right. Okay, so continuing on those comments, the only people trying to make money is Brookfield and CCP. Brookfield, anyway. And Donald and Trump, Rick. Trump is making more profit for himself than Canada, US are making together. Yeah, that's for sure. Absolutely. All right.
Yeah, so, his personal fortune has doubled, I guess. 3,700 trades since he's been president. Oh, there's no insider information there at all, is there?
Dave, I've seen your name on the list for Niagara Regional Chair. Step down as Chair Bingo Caller. Actually, talking about that, by the way, Niagara Regional Chair, I've seen there's actually an advert out there right now. So if you want to become the new Niagara Regional Chair, they're recruiting for you, right? So let's. I'm going to actually copy this link. If you follow this from Kim Crater, he actually put a link up there on Facebook yesterday about the new regional chair. So there you go. Follow that link to the Kim Crater page, and you'll find the advertisement to apply for the Niagara Regional Chair. There we go. So, and if you want to go, I'm sorry, the job's mine, but if you want to go for it, that's fine.
Yeah. I think I do a lot more useful stuff as the chair of the Bengal Colleague Chair. I think I could do more for the community.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So the question here is, Mark Carney sold himself as a break from Trudeau, a fresh start, but is he? Right, on some issues, he's not really been seen that way.
Mark Carney is a fresh start. I'm not so sure. I think the reason I tried not to try to be as skeptical as possible with Carney, but when I see what he's up against, and the government that was left to him by the situation that was left to him by Trudeau, and his philosophy, I'm pretty good with him. I'd be a lot better off with him than Poilievre, really. I thought that Poilievre was going to save us from more Trudeau, but it turned out another guy stepped in, and his name happened to be Mark Carney, and he was a businessman, and he, a really like a governor of the Bank of Canada, governor of the Bank of England, and a self-made man business-wise. That's supposed to be, so I thought to myself, this is a practical man. Let's see. And he is a practical man.
By the way,
he pushes idealism to where it belongs, right? And deals with practical matter. Yes, we got to get our oil to market. Yes, we have to have a pipeline through Canada. Yes, we got to open up our mines. They're bogged down with regulations. Let's get rid of them. Sounds like conservative to me, really, but what it is basically is just practical, practical, what do you call common sense stuff.
But one of the things is administration made a fresh they pivoted on a Trudeau policy, which was non-partisan vetting a system.
Oh, so you're going not to the article. Okay, so I thought you were going to go to the to the article about Canadian.
No, this was
exports.
The one about selling himself as an alternative to Trudeau, but the question was he?
Well, basically, what Trudeau came up with a system that was supposed to be nonpartisan, but in reality, it would have looked like it had a polish of nonpartisan, but it was really partisan. So what Mark Carney has done is he stepped back a bit. He stepped back a bit to the Chrétien and Harper years. Harper and Chrétien both appointed senators based on their what they have done for their respective parties, and also they put in people there that can't win elections, that party owes something to, or some old cronies like that. So they got a buddy, and they'll put him in the Senate. They got some fundraiser that was a big fundraiser. They'll put him in the Senate, that kind of thing. Like Duffy was put there. He was mostly put there because he was a excellent fundraiser for the Conservatives. So what Carney has done instead here, he has sort of changed it a bit. He's not going to pretend to be nonpartisan, but he lifted eyebrows though because he's taken a Conservative and appointed him to the Senate. Now that Conservative holds a seat in Quebec. And the idea here is they're appointing a very popular guy that's a Conservative in Quebec, realizing that Conservative probably got his seat because he's a very popular guy, not because of his political affiliations. If you can get rid of him, then the Liberals will have a much better shot at that particular seat. So basically, the skinny on this is Carney is pushing the Conservative up to the Senate, therefore vacating that spot to be elected, and they feel that the Liberals will win that seat if the Conservative is out of the way.
Yeah, and is that again? That's just in a way one could view that on the party political viewpoint as being smart politics, right?
Yeah. So
putting aside what the name of the political party is, that's actually quite smart thinking.
Yes, but it isn't. No one has been able to go to the nonpartisan, let's appoint somebody that deserves to be there kind of thing, right? So this is Richard Martellus, the Conservative I'm talking about, from Chicoutimi. Now, Martel is a popular hockey coach, and he won the seat as a conservative in 2018 by-election and won again in 2025 in spite of the Carney wave. But his own personal popularity that put him there, you know? And by appointing him to the Senate, there's a good chance that liberals can pick up that riding. Okay, so that is now the other appointment, Tom Pitfield. He has been in the higher up liberals for a very long time. He goes way back to Pierre Trudeau, and he's also a friend of Justin's. And basically, this could be pretty much a handover, the old-fashioned handover. You've been a party friend for a very long time. You've worked hard for the Liberal Party. He built the data sciences, the data sciences unit that helped Justin Trudeau win 3 elections. And of course, Anna Gani was the president of the party during Trudeau's years and is now the Liberal MP for Notre Dame de Grace, Westmount. So it's pretty much this is an appointment, the old-fashioned kind of appointment. Here you go. Here's your reward for all your hard work. Here's your plum. So in that particular appointment, he hasn't done anything different than anyone else has ever done. You know, but that one conservative one, the
conservative one is what you would call smart politics.
Now, every prime minister has this problem. What do you do with the Senate? And if you do a real nonpartisan appointment, like Trudeau claimed he was going to do, you're never going to win, because you need Senate can hold up all your legislation. So basically, what every party does is try to fix the Senate so they get more of a weight than their opponents does. Well, the last thing you want is a bunch of conservatives holding up legislation that the liberals have come up with, and vice versa. And the Senate usually votes on party lines, just like, I don't know, the Senate and the Constitution and the Congress in the United States, but those are elected bodies. But you know what I mean? The appointed body of the Supreme Court of the United States, we find that mostly they vote along party lines when they're appointed. So you've got 6 conservatives and 3 liberals in Scottish, in the Supreme Court there, and they vote along party lines. Well, that's the same pretty much as the Senate. They normally vote along party lines.
And the other thing to note, by the way, is, of course, where Canada's trade surplus hits a 4-year high in May, particularly led by a jump in exports to the USA.
So let's not lie about this. It says, now basically, it says that Canada's doing pretty well because its trade surplus with the United States, it is bought 1.4% less and is sold 2.1% more, or something of that kind, to the United States. But let's make it very clear: the inflated oil price that was brought on by the Pumpkins' big Iran war, that inflated oil price is still there. It's come down somewhat, but it's still more than it was than before the war. So when we are selling, if we sell 3.9 million barrels of oil to the United States every day,
and the price is going up, that helps.
The price has gone way up. So I think that answers most of that question of the increase. It's pretty much an artificial increase. I mean, it's a temporary one. When the oil price goes down, if that war ever ends, the oil price will come down. And will it? I would say to everybody, too, if you're going to buy gas, do it now, because, as I said, Trump has said that the MOU is over, and there's more missiles being shot. So the price of oil is probably going to go back up.
Okay, so exports at the beginning of this year, January 2026, were 63.1 billion, and they've risen to 77.1 billion by May of 26. And what has happened is imports over the same period were 66.2 billion in January 26, and they flatlined between February and May almost at about 72.9 billion.
Yes. So I don't know. It looks good on the surface, but basically our GDP is pretty bad overall. The unsurety of the tariff regime in the U.S. I mean, it looks more and more that we're going to have to wait for the next president to come along before we can really get this going. Hopefully, no matter if it's a Republican or Democrat, it's a person with a brain.
And at the end of the day, when we're looking here, essentially both imports and exports have risen during the course of 2026, whereas during the course of 2025 we started high and ended low.
Yeah, but we can't really put too much to this. Canada has a trade surplus now, a 4-year trade surplus. But we can't really put much to this. Remember, things have not settled down. We came out of COVID, right? We came out of COVID and then we walked right into the tariff times. So we came out of COVID where there was disruptions of supply chains and all of that. And then we walked right into the tariff times, and that still hasn't been settled. I mean, and
actually looking
a big pumpkin can't even let a bridge open that he loved back in his first term, and now he decides he wants to get some money out of it.
Yeah, one of the things to note, of course, is that since 2022, in the kind of post-COVID era, I know COVID wasn't over in 22, but essentially we were moving beyond COVID. The exports and imports both started to rise, and both in the 60s to 70 billion a month category, whereas in prior to that they were in the 50 to 55 billion. So the trade, whether it was a surplus or a deficit, it's approximately the same sort of thing, but the values during the COVID era were much lower than they are now. So even at the worst today, the worst of last year was essentially 60 billion, as opposed to the highs at 55 billion 5 years ago.
Yeah, so I will say this again: we cannot count on this as for any indication of where the economy is going, because there are too many intangibles. There are variables here. There is the tariff threat from the U.S. There's the war in Iran. There's the continuing war in Ukraine. But basically, the markets like stability, and the Trump regime is not letting that stability happen in Canada. And as a matter of fact, that probably might be part of their strategy. We aren't going to get investments. We aren't going to be able to expand our economy until the investors are happy that there is some sort of stability in the markets. And that's part of I believe that's part of the strategy of the U.S. is to make it very difficult for the investors to find reasons to invest in Canada while there's still this tariff negotiations going on, basically. Yeah. So that's my 2 cents on it. Yeah. So even though it's a nice sort of idea that we might be doing a little bit better, there's nothing that can be pinned on this until we have stability, until we have some sort of assurance, because like I said, like markets do not like unsure things. They do not like question marks. And right now, Canada's one big question mark because no one knows what the big pumpkin's going to do. And until and it looks like we may even have to wait till the next president in order to fully negotiate this this situation.
Renegotiate after.
Yeah. Right now, U.S. has turned down but it still goes on for 10 years.
Yeah.
And believe me, when the next president comes along, they're going to look at NAFTA basically and see how important it is for the U.S. And they'll, like you said, the Senate, a Republican stacked Senate and a Republican stacked Congress both voted. It's a ceremonial vote basically, but they both voted to continue Kuzma.
Yeah.
As is. Right?
Yep.
That's the Senate and the Congress, and they're both Republican, right? So
yeah. Oh yeah, and because they can see more clearly than Donald Trump can what the state of their local economies are, because they all report back to their local areas, and they're being told by businessmen in their local areas about the current situation, and they're responding to that.
Well, you also have a situation like was pointed out in Iowa, where the senators and congressmen were afraid, they're pretty much Republican, were afraid to point out how important Kuzma was for their own particular state and their constituents.
Yeah.
And it was made very clear to them that Kuzma was quite important for their state economy, but the senators and congressmen were afraid to put that out there because it was contrary to what Trump was saying. And so they were afraid to bring that up. They might be more inclined to bring it up because they may lose their jobs, because it's being pointed out that look,
right now,
like how about supporting us rather than trying to keep your head low,
Yeah. Well, midterms are looming, right? So we're actually less than 3 months away, aren't we? 3 months away from the midterms.
Yeah, but I think the Republicans are going to win because of all those godless communist Democrats. My God.
Well, we shall see. Depends upon the rise. It depends upon the re-rise of Epstein, I think.
Well, there's a communist around every corner. Your teachers, your police, they're all around every corner. You look under your bed, there's going to be a communist there.
Yeah.
Mark my words.
You may be right, you may be wrong. But we have to leave it at that point.
Okay. And I'm going to bring up Gaza again. The brutality that the IDF has put, the ambitions and the machinations of Netanyahu are only part of it, because all of Israel is pretty sick right now. They all approve of war after war after war. They live very comfortable lives because a lot of American money comes into them. They have free medical, they have free education. Who do you think's paying for that? They're not paying for it. It's the U.S. is paying for it. Then they get all kinds of free weapons, right, that come from the United States, right? So they can do just about as much as they want, and they have extremely powerful influence on the American government. That's all got to change. If you want peace in that area, you cannot let them do anything they want to do, particularly guys like Netanyahu. So the old Hasbro system they have there of their very bigoted ethno-religious state cannot survive. They are not the same kind of democracy we are. They aren't. They're an ethno-religious state that's a democracy for Zionists basically, and the occupied areas they have no intent of treating them well.
Mm-hmm.
And Gaza will be a nightmare that will last on our conscience for a very, very long time. And that is why, even today, years later, you still cannot get a foreign journalist inside Gaza. How come?
Mm-hmm.
There's supposed to be a peace deal going on there. Anyway, without further ado, I bid you adieu.
All right. Bye, everybody.